It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Welcome back to your Feel Good Breakfast Show. It's Expresso right here on SABC3. Time for us to do our Monday relationship chats. And today I just want to say it's not going to be an easy one, because even though most wedding vows include the phrase, till death do us part, none of us are ever prepared for the loss of a partner. Picking up the pieces and, of course, reconfiguring a life that you planned with your partner becomes the sole focus of the bereaved. Are you dealing with the bereavement of a partner?
Yeah, and in what ways can we meaningfully re-engage with life after such a loss? And we're talking about dealing with the loss of a loved one ahead of Grief Awareness Day this coming Wednesday. And we're joined by clinical psychologist Shahieda Carlie-Abrahams to shed some light on the process of grieving a life partner. So feel free to please give us a call with your questions or your comments on 021 430 9881. Shahieda, thank you very much for being here.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me here.
Like I said, it's not a very easy topic, but there are many people that I know that have gone through it. I've seen it in my own life and in the life of my friends and family. What is the thoughts and the emotions that goes through someone who's just recently lost a partner, whether it's just happened or somebody that you've been with for many, many years?
Yeah, I think it's different as the process unfolds, and different people will have different thoughts as well. Also, the circumstances around which the person would have passed away will impact on what you will be thinking at the time. So I think, you know, in the first stages, it would be absolute shock, and people will say to themselves, how could this happen? I'm not prepared. The very until death do us part, you know. So I thought that we were going to live together forever until eventually, you know, we will almost die at the same time. It's kind of the thoughts that people have. But it's extremely traumatic, and, you know, it's kind of a roller coaster ride that people will often describe. So, and then as you pass the first stages, and, you know, the funeral and so on has passed, that's when the reality sets in, and anxieties, you know, the worry, am I going to be able to do things on my own? You know, how I've forever thought of myself as the wife of someone, and suddenly my identity changes. So it's very, very fearful and extremely sad. You know?
And tell us
Very
about some of the
painful.
ways in which people cope with this kind of loss and those kind of emotions, because some people will say, no, you must re-engage with life as quickly as possible, get back on your horse. Some people will say, take your time, let the process go. What are some of the ways in which people cope?
Look, I think the first thing is respecting that people will engage with the grieving process very differently. So while some people will think, I need to keep busy, I need to get back to a normalcy, and they create a new normalcy for themselves, that is important for them. Another person will withdraw and go quiet and go reflective and trying to make sense of things. Lots of trying to make sense of things, you know. How did it happen? Why did it happen? Why now? You know, those types of thoughts. And then you have the person who will cry, speak about things, speak about the person, speak about the event. And it's about walking alongside someone and allowing them to be and to go through their process as they need to have and experience their process.
All right, well, we're going to ask you to stay with us, and welcoming your calls on 02143098881 ahead of Grief Awareness Day this coming Wednesday. We're talking about dealing with the loss of a loved one, how to go through that, and in fact, how to be supportive for somebody who finds themselves in that position. So give us a call. We're waiting for you.
It's my feel-good breakfast show.
30th of August is Grief Awareness Day, and in light of this, we've invited clinical psychologist Shahieda Carlie-Abrahams into studio this morning to talk about life after the loss of a partner. If you are suffering, if you are currently experiencing this right now, give us a call with a question or comment, or at 021 430 9881.
Absolutely. And during the break, we were talking to Shahieda about how the loved ones of the bereaved or the person who's passed, how can they help support each other in that kind of circumstance? Because, I mean, the people around you are your foundation, and they're the people that hold you up.
Yeah, and, you know, firstly, to acknowledge that people will grieve differently. So while someone will perhaps cry, you know, quite a bit, the other one might go quiet, and really allowing people to engage with their grieving process as they, you know, will. But I think, and being very, very supportive. But there are times when a person will be trying to cope, and an example that I will use is there could be the leaning towards using alcohol excessively, and that could be a concern. And you know, when you approach someone like that, really to do it empathically, and you want to not tell the person, I need you to stop drinking the alcohol.
And we're talking about alcohol, medication, whatever it is that is a suppressant of that kind of emotion that is overused.
Right. You want to ask them, you know, I've noticed this or that type of behavior. What are your thoughts about it? Do you think that this is a time that you should have a little bit of professional help? So it's, you know, gauging and watching people, you know, are they eating? Are they sleeping? Prepare meals for them, take it to them, assist them, ask. You know, a fantastic way of doing things is asking the person, how can I help? Tell me what you need from me. How can I support you in the best of way? Letting the person cry. Sometimes a person could be telling you things that you know doesn't entirely make sense, like they'll blame themselves or they'll question unduly. The first step would be acknowledge that that is their difficulty and they need to work through that. It gets better over time, instead of correcting the person at the time when they're trying to make sense. You know, at a later stage you can guide and say, perhaps it wasn't so, you know, you did the best you can, and so on. So really, and I think importantly, when a person starts speaking about life is no longer worthwhile, I want to be with the person who had passed away, those are times when you will note that this could be an indication of a deep clinical depression unfolding, and this would be a time to get professional help.
We've actually got a caller on the line. Mbali is on the line. Good morning, Mbali. How are you? What's your question or comment?
Morning, guys. How are you?
Good, thank you. What's your question or comment?
Basically, my question is, how can I be in a healing process? Because I lost my mother in 2015, and from then I couldn't cope with work, so I resigned. And after that, I found out that I'm epileptic. So from then, I just stayed at home and felt neglected by a lot of people. I also found out that I'm HIV, and people were rejecting me. Luckily, I have a very supportive father who's always been there. So I haven't healed, and I'm a single mother too. So whenever I'm at home, I feel scared around my kids because anything can happen. Because I'm under this medication. So how can I heal? Where can I get help without being judged? And because the only thing that keeps me busy now, even now, I'm just designing, and I wish I could get someone, or maybe David Salis, to find me a machine so I can just start designing, because I have a lot of pictures here. So that's the only thing that keeps me busy, because I've been trying to apply. I don't get anything that would keep me busy.
Thank you, Mbali, for calling us, and thank you for sharing your story and your struggle with us. So obviously a question about where to begin, where everything is seemingly falling apart around her. She has a supportive father. She has an outlet in creative design. What can she do now? Where can she seek help where she won't be judged?
Yeah, and I think the first is, depending on, the question would be, if you have medical aid, you are able to consult with, let's say, a clinical psychologist. So if you don't, then you can go to your nearest clinic. You ask to speak with your psychiatric nurse, and then they will do an assessment of you, depending on when the person had lost her loved one. Are we looking at complicated bereavement? I think I picked up that she has very little support other than her father, that she can explore, that she can, connect with a support group would be very, very helpful. But then, and as you go to your first point of getting support, in your area, that professional will be able to say to you, reach out to that group, that is available here. But certainly, to go to your closest clinic could be an option for her. Yeah.
All right. Sure. Thank you so much. We're going to be keeping that line open, 0214309881. We'll continue our chat shortly.
It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Welcome back to you Monday morning on your Feel Good Breakfast show. Now, as we were saying earlier on, that the 30th of August, this coming Wednesday, is Grief Awareness Day. And as we conclude our relationship talk today, we are trying to kind of close in on the chapter of how to go about dealing with the loss of a loved one. And we want to focus specifically right now with our clinical psychologist, Shahieda Carlie-Abrahams, on how to best prepare children in a family for the imminent death or passing of a partner. If you know that it's about to happen, how do you prepare your children?
Yeah, I think it's good to prepare the children. And if you're able to get the children into therapy to prepare them there, even better. But then you approach it depending on the children's ages. So you almost have to group your children. The smaller ones you'll deal with differently to the ones who are older, adolescents, and will have a different level of understanding. Sitting them down and so, of course, this will be in the case of a parent is ill. So, you know, getting a sense of how do they make sense of what's happening to their parent? How do they relate to the illness that the parent is experiencing? And are they actually preparing themselves already that my parent is going to die? So some children would already have done that, whereas others will not understand it. So you've got to try to make them, to prepare them, try to speak with them on their level and make them understand how life unfolds, that we will become ill, and sometimes we try to help the person to become better, but sometimes, you know, not all of us will live and some of us will die. It is very, very, very hard. And what is important to note is, even though you would have prepared your child, when that parent dies, it will be as painful as it was going to be. It's just that you would have tried to prepare them and shift their thinking a little bit, but ultimately it's very painful. Asking them to tell you about their fears. What are the things that they worry about? So they could be worrying about, where's mommy going to? Which place is she going to be? What is she going to be, you know, doing there? Who's going to meet her on the other side? How will it impact our lives? And so really having conversations, very difficult conversations, but to have those conversations. Also trying to say to the child, are there things you want to speak with mommy about at this stage? You know, so, and especially when there is clarity with the person who is ill and they know that they are going to die. There are certain conversations they might want to have with their children.
Oh, there's so much to talk about, because I also wanted to talk about the fact that if a death happens unexpectedly, and how you deal with that.
With the children particularly,
the children still,
it is extremely hard. And so really containing them and preparing yourself that they could be acting out, they could be fighting you, they could be very angry, and it's kind of acknowledging their feelings, staying with those feelings, consoling them as best you can, time spent with the child. So the same gendered grandparents are often very helpful. So if I've lost my mom and my grandmother is holding me and I can cry by her, or even an auntie or an uncle is very, very useful. And even, you know, children having their friends come in to console them. So guiding and letting your child guide you in terms of what is it that they'd like, you know, to help to make it better. They're very difficult circumstances. Like at a time, a child can say to you, but I'd like you to bring my parent back. And the difficulty around trying to explain, you know, that would not be possible.
I suppose that's why they call it the grief cycle, you know, because there's an entire process that you need to go through in order to deal with it successfully.
And we'll certainly focus a bit more on this come Wednesday, the 30th of August, which is, of course, Grief Awareness Day. Shahieda, thank you so much for being here with us, and thank you to our callers for sharing your stories with us. Stay tuned.